Greetings, friends. Reformed Stoic, back with another video. Whoo, I gotta tell you guys, man, I feel like I spent a lot of energy trying not to be bummed out on Christmas Eve and Christmas. I had minimal success, and I did not take into account that things were still going to be hard the couple of days after Christmas. So, trying to get it together over here. Had a very long stream tonight. It was whatever. It was mumbly. I don't think it was that big of a deal. It just went for a long time. Just kind of sat there and stared into the abyss. But I brushed over an idea on stream today about awakening. And I wanted to go ahead and sit here and break that down for you guys briefly. I've made some videos in the past on enlightenment and awakening. I feel like they were long and ranty, and I wasn't doing the sunglasses content back then. I feel like we're kind of knocking it out of the park lately. So here's kind of my working theory, where I'm at right now, of what I think enlightenment is, what it's like, what it feels like, how the process works. Basically, it's a double whammy. The world, on one hand, gives you suffering to bear, and then on the other hand, tries to convince you that it's your fault. That is life. That is life. Now, I feel like part of when you're talking about awakening enlightenment, theoretically, a concept that would go along with that would be the chosen ones. Theoretically, if somebody was meant to awaken, meant to be enlightened, this would be a person who, on the way toward their awakening, they would start pushing up against their suffering. And they would start pushing up against the idea that the suffering is their fault. Now, when I say the world gives you suffering and then the world tries to make you accept that it's your fault, this force, this worldly force, and in biblical language, the world is spoken of as a negative thing. Be in the world, but not of it. The worldly force works through all things. It works through people. It works through circumstances. It works through your own psychology. It works through just your day-to-day feelings. Certain people, they get carried away in an emotion. They get carried away in a season of their life. And they go to a psychologist and they get diagnosed with like a mental illness or something. I would say that, appealing to Heraclitus, people are like streams. And ultimately, if you put your foot in a stream and then you go home and you come back the next day and you put your foot in that stream is made of something entirely different. It's not the same as it was yesterday. The water that was flowing through that stream in that particular moment the day before is miles away at this point. And it's a completely different stream. And a lot of people are in flux and constantly changing and growing, and that's another thing that society likes to do is pin you down in a particular moment in your life when you're going through a particular season in your life. Well, theoretically, if enlightenment and awakening exists, I would say the chosen ones would be people who were maybe destined for awakening. If people believe in like predestination, fate, destiny, then that would mean that some people are destined to awaken and these people would be chosen ones. And what I'm saying is that before your awakening, you will instinctually, intuitively start pushing up against this idea that you deserve the suffering in your life. And this kind of folk psychology, or this kind of shared idea of the people, is that if you're suffering, it's your fault. Now, two terms that I feel are weapons of the world, so to speak, are accountability and entitlement. You're entitled, take accountability. I mean, if you want to formulate like kind of like a typical normie boomer kind of gaslighting statement, it's like, wow, I'm so disgusted by your entitlement. Why don't you take accountability for once in your life? And I'm sure a lot of people feel some type of way hearing that. Now, is there such thing as taking accountability? Is there such thing as entitlement? Yes. But here's a couple of easy answers I would give to the common ways that these things are used. Let's start with entitlement. We all want the same things. People all want the same things. We all want stability, family, career, love, relationships. Maybe not everybody wants to have like children, but basically relationships, the option to have children. We all want the same things. The human experience, part of the human experience is getting to these particular places in life. Everybody knows that. And when you get to a point where there's a lot of people unhappy for good reasons, to act like they're entitled to something that everybody wants as part of the human experience is ignorant. Now, I know that good things don't just fall out of the sky, but what's happening now is we have statistical evidence that an unusually large section of the population is experiencing this lack of what you can call lifelong milestones. Whatever the problem is, a lot of women are saying that it's all their fault. It doesn't matter if it's 60% of the population, 60% of those men are at fault. Well, whenever something is abnormally large like that, like 60% of the young male population, that reflects that something is going wrong in society. So at best, these men are crippled, and as a result of being crippled, they're not doing things properly. So you can say, hey, look at you, you're not doing things properly, but they're crippled because something's going wrong with society. So in terms of entitlement, we generally all want the same things. So to say that somebody is entitled because they want the same thing that you want, that you likely had an easier time obtaining, and they're ultimately like being deprived of for some sort of a societal reason that a lot of people are either struggling or deliberately trying to get people not to understand what's happening with the situation. So we all want the same things. So ultimately, this idea of entitlement is refuted. And in order, what these people want from you, it's like, okay, normie, what do I do for you not to think I'm entitled? Whatever they say that you should do, and it's usually put your head down and get whatever position you can get, which is a low status position. And a lot of people who are complaining, who are getting labeled entitled, they're already doing that. They're already doing what they can do, and that's not getting them where they want to get, and they're still being labeled entitled. So ultimately, the issue of entitlement is a lack of empathy on the behalf of the person labeling people entitled. And I do believe that it's very in line with narcissism, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, dark triad behavior. Hot off the press is an article that says that there might be a lot more psychopathic women than people have taken account for. But that's just a study, that's just science, that's just whatever. Okay, so then the other one, I saved the best for last because I feel like this one is a little bit more difficult. Accountability. So I've constructed an example here. Accountability is like let's speak in terms of physics. Accountability is the motion of limbs. So let's say you're a body trying to set yourself in motion. So here's you with your legs. So you're trying to take accountability, but there's no ground, there's no walls, you're just free falling. And while you're free falling, people are telling you to take accountability. And ultimately, cronyism, nepotism, connections, help, people caring about you, community, people who give a flying shit whether you live or die. That's like the ground. That's like a wall. That's like something that you can put yourself in motion off of using your accountability. But basically what people are telling you to do is flail more or less for their entertainment and satisfaction. Well, you have no ground to stand on, well, there's no walls, well, there's nothing to propel yourself off of. So, take accountability, apply yourself, put some elbow grease into it, try harder. That's very difficult for a certain category of men right now because they're just kind of irrationally hated at this point. And again, these alarming statistics have come out, and I really am starting to see a lot of people suggest that this unusually large number of men who are having a hard time, they're collectively blowing it. Where it's funny that we live in these times of, like feminism and DEI and these other things. So, like other groups of people, like, for stuff like feminism and DEI, when an unusual number of those people struggle, it's because they're oppressed. Ultimately, all of history up until now, whenever there was an abnormal number of a particular group struggling, that was labeled as oppression. But now, all of the sudden, when there's an abnormal number of people failing, it's being labeled as their fault. Now, I'm starting to think that these people who are saying that are bots and AI accounts that are made to gaslight people. Okay, so how long did I go off on that? We're at 12 minutes? Okay, not bad. Maybe 2-minute introduction, 10 minutes on that. So accountability and the other one, accountability, yeah, and the other one that I already mentioned. I'll remember it in a minute. Entitlement. Entitlement and accountability, those are like the weapons of the world. This is how the worldly force manifests through people. Just part of it, just a couple of examples that I've noticed of how people try to get you to accept that this suffering is your doing, is your fault. There's a strange fine line with things like The Secret, the Law of Attraction, New Age, self-help kind of stuff, where on one hand, I'm advocating for elements of those kind of things like affirmations and the Law of Attraction, The Secret. I mean, that's how I feel like you can try to harness these things to start doing the heavy lifting, to start inching your way to lift yourself to a better place. But the problem with a lot of those things, they'll straight up tell you that you manifested your own suffering. And what you see for like people trying to describe psyops and other things, there's patterns. Well, there's a pattern to this way that the world works. You'll see a lot of different versions of it, and that's an example. You take the truth and you mix it with this lie of your suffering is your fault. And yeah, I think the Law of Attraction is a perfect example. On one hand, I think that the power of positive thinking and believing you can have what you want, as well as, other new age spiritual things, positive affirmations, what have you. I think that it can be a very powerful thing, but when it's wrapped up in this ideology that says, everything that happens to you is your fault. I believe that that is the great lie of the world. And it goes back to the thesis of this video. It's a double whammy. The world has two hands. On one hand, you are given suffering, and then you are made to believe and accept that you are the cause of that suffering. So theoretically, the chosen one will eventually, intuitively, instinctually start to push up against that. They'll start to say, well, this happens to me, that happens to me, these people were completely left field. They'll start explaining their case. This is what can make somebody very logical and rational. They will start making their case for how a lot of things happened to them that caused their bad experience. And then they will experience the pressure getting harder. And the point that I would consider it a spiritual awakening, enlightenment, is when it's no longer instinctual, when it's no longer coming from this intuitive place, when you rationalize it, when you fully make it conscious in your mind that something very unnatural has happened in your life. And I believe that I have explained it. I believe when you understand what I explained to be true, that is basically the awakening. That life has given you suffering, and then the world has tried to make you take the blame for that suffering. Make you believe that you are the cause and the origins of that suffering. So then from there we can try to analyze what this implies. Okay, there's something that wants to cause you to suffer. This world seems to revolve around suffering. Did I pull that out of my ass? No, Buddha said that. Krishna said that. Krishna put a great emphasis on desire. Krishna said that not only suffering, but basically everything bad comes from desire. And there's certainly something to that, but again, have we discovered another spiritual psyop? You are the cause of your suffering because you desire. Take accountability for your desire, because you're not entitled to happiness. Every psyop, guys. You can take every single spiritual belief and apply that. Okay? And maybe it would require a little bit more thinking on my part to maybe come back with another video. But there is an other example. You cause your suffering because you have desire. Well, that desire is very, 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 very difficult to overpower. It's basically the equivalent of saying, it's your fault that you're not a rich millionaire, bro. Which is very common. Which is very common in ex-hustle PUA culture. It's like, bro, imagine not being a millionaire. Anybody can do it, bro. Anybody can be a millionaire, dude. It's your fault. And I feel like if you really open your eyes and don't be defensive, because a lot of you who are tied up in the world still wants to use you as a weapon. And that's another important lesson of this awakening. What I've realized is you are either causing suffering in others or the suffering's coming from you. The world must produce suffering at all costs. Now, is that because suffering is loosh and weird sucker monsters are feeding off of loosh? I don't know. So that's what some people say. That's what the guy who wrote, The Distant Journeys. He made the Gateway Institute, Hemisync. His name's right on the tip of my tongue, but whatever. That guy. what is it, Project Stargate. This is stuff that was funded by the CIA. That's what he said. He said, in his astral travels, he came across this kind of alien species that gave him like a download packet to where he just got this huge download in his mind. I feel like maybe I've gotten little download packets before. I feel like I got one like a week ago about the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension. I'll save you the big spiel, but basically to achieve the fifth dimension, which I feel like is the real heaven, which is like a fancy name for the real heaven, you have to interact with the fourth dimension while you're alive. And that might sound really like crazy to somebody who's like, let's say like just like a meat and potatoes Christian. Well, basically all religion is an interface. All spirituality is an interface with the fourth dimension. And atheists are completely cut off from the fourth dimension. The atheist worldview is there is nothing beyond the third dimension. All that exists is what we can see, touch, hear, empiricism. All that matters is your senses and what you can sense. So they are completely cut off from the third dimension. All spirituality interacts with the fourth dimension somehow. Now, some better than others. And it's like, well, what about something horrible like Satanism? Well, I would argue that they're interacting with the very bottom of the fourth dimension, which is like the lower astral realm where there's astral nasties, and it's basically like a prison. You could see it like hell. You could see it like purgatory. And so I'll just save you that big spiel. But like I feel like I had a moment like a week ago where this information was kind of just downloaded into my brain. But anyway, where was I? Yeah, so is it the sucker loosh monsters? Is that why the suffering needs to be produced? I will, keep doing my little research, keep kind of seeking, keep kind of expanding my understanding, keep searching. All I know is that suffering is like, that's what I know for sure. That's what I feel like I know for sure. And you as a human must produce suffering. It's either going to come from you, others causing you to suffer, or you have to make other people suffer. So here's where like following what Christ said comes in. Christ, Krishna, Buddha, a lot of these spiritual, you could call them ascended masters, whatever. Both worldviews account for it. Even if you're a Christian and like it's Jesus above everything, or you're a perennialist and you respect the other teachers, or you're a Buddhist, or you're Krishna above Jesus, whatever. All of these worldviews tell you to stop producing suffering from others above everything, especially Jesus. Especially Jesus. And now, I just put money behind a tweet, like $10 behind this tweet, calling out the church and saying that they're dropping the ball with disenfranchised men. And that basically implying that there's like a lot of bullies and gaslighters in the churches. And the only people who responded to that post started to bully and gaslight me. And apparently they go to church. This is why I'm like this. This is why, because for very rational, logical reasons, Jesus tells you to not cause suffering in others. Top priority. Number one priority. Going by what Jesus taught, treat others the way you want to be treated. Judge lest not ye be judged. Deal with your own stuff before you throw things at other people. Show your love for me by love one another. He just straight up told you to stop causing suffering. The Jainists, I feel like the Jainists take it to an extreme. They brush a path because they don't want to step on amoebas. And I feel like that's a little bit crazy, but I mean, I feel like the Eastern people arguably like go above and beyond with like veganism. When we're talking veganism, and vegetarianism is like, hey, we're going to like milk the cows and we're going to make cheese and milk and yogurt, but we're not going to kill the cows. They're our buddies and they give us milk and cheese and yogurt. I feel like I could rock with veganism and vegetarianism. Look, bro, I've said this a few times in my stream, but when people like ruthlessly mock vegans, it's like, bro, they're doing more than you. Like they're actually like doing something good. Like when you care about animals, bro, I love animals. And guess what? You know what animals are really cute and adorable and they love people? Fucking cows and pigs. All of them. Chickens. Like I get it, dude. I totally get veganism. But I feel like vegetarianism is a good middle ground. I feel like I could still be big and strong as a vegetarian. Eating eggs, man. Eggs, chicken eggs. The problem is I don't really like eggs that much. It might get to a point where you're like, hey, you know, I love animals, but you know, fish, chickens, sorry, fuck you, you're small. But anyway, so yeah, I'm trying to put a lot of emphasis on that. Like, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, perennial philosophy, most beliefs, most spiritual beliefs tend to amount to stop causing suffering in others. So what happens when the world has a suffering quota from every human being? You're not narking on people, you're not judging, you're not spreading rumors. And the Bible goes deeper than this, man. The Bible says not to talk about people behind their backs, not to create problems for people, not to be in rooms away from people, like plotting people's demise. These are all like specific psalms and specific wisdom in the Bible that basically amounts to like, don't go on smear campaigns, don't turn people against each other. All this shit that's been happening to me for a very, 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 very long time. The Bible goes in great detail how the people who do this shit are objectively evil and going against God. And what happened for me is I realized, like, wow, the church is full of these people. The church is, like, filled to the brim with these kind of people who don't seem to have any idea what it means to be a Christian. That's kind of what, like, pushed me away. But, yeah, the world demands suffering. This is definitely taking longer than it needed to. We're going to wrap it up before 30 minutes. We got 4 minutes. The world demands suffering. And you're no longer causing other people to suffer. So now you have to produce the suffering. Now the suffering has to come from you. So this is where it gets really interesting. When people are like, man, it kind of seems like I became very spiritual. I came across certain knowledge and practices. And then eventually something really weird happened. Like, people started to follow me. People started to harass me. People started to be very cruel to me all of a sudden. And so that's the first step. The world hands you suffering. Here you go. Oh, and by the way, you caused that suffering. You deserve it. You did something that merits the suffering. It's all an illusion, you guys. And when you fully internalize it, like, look, I'm basically sitting here like, yeah, I'm enlightened, but I have to fully internalize it. Sometimes it's like I'm still maybe a little bit in that stage where I'm trying to convince myself. But this is reality, guys. And it reflects in thousands of years of wisdom from various sects. I believe that the perennial philosophy reflects this. So this has probably been your experience. Like, you were up in the world, you were a worldly person, and you had some early experiences where things started going wrong, and you weren't really, like, buying it. It's like, nah, man, like, this suffering in my life, I didn't do anything to, like, cause this. Like, this shit just happened. Like, the world just handed me suffering. That's half of the awakening. And then the world tries to convince you. The other half is them trying to convince you that you deserved it. But you're still kind of a normie, and you're still causing, like, you know, it's kind of divided up. Like, you have to suffer a little bit, and then you're causing other people to suffer. But then you get to a point where it's like, you know what? I'm not going to cause people to suffer anymore. So then strange things start to happen. Then people are shitty to you. Then it just kind of feels like the world is out to get you. And my experience is like, when I don't say anything about it, it's like, okay, I'll take everybody's advice. I'll just stop complaining. Hey, how's it going? Putting my best foot forward. Just like weird normie glare. Huh. Hey, how's it going? Good. Oh, cool, man. Well, my name is... Okay, cool, dude. Did anybody ask? Oh, whoa, man. I'm just trying to... Oh, okay, whatever, dude. You're not a victim, bro. Take accountability. You're not entitled to me to be nice to you. I was explaining that on stream today. Like, when you do what people say you're supposed to do, people are just kind of unusually off to you. They don't really like you. And if you start to say anything about it, if you start to make any sort of a case for that, people are like kind of causing me suffering, and I don't deserve it. Whoa, you're not entitled, bro. Take some accountability for what you did. Okay? This is all the illusion, and what the world would really love for you to do is cause that person suffering. You think it's like, okay, the world is in a pact with this person who's causing you suffering. No. This person's hitting you. They want you to give them the 865, bro. You might have the potential to cause more suffering than any of these fucking normies. Okay? And yes, if you cause a substantial amount of suffering, the world will reward you. But it's not personal. It doesn't mean that this worldly force cares about these people. They're tools. They're instruments. What I like about the Loosh farm example is it's like a fucking farm, okay? We're all cattle. And this cattle's producing milk, and you're not. And that's the bottom line. Now, I think that this guy kind of went off the rails a little bit as he said that, like, love was Loosh, too. Now, I don't think the world gives a shit about love, dude. Love can maybe, like, give birth to more narcissists is all it really amounts to. So, that wasn't part of my awakening, dude. And for the record, I don't think CIA funding and fancy experiments is necessarily, like, guaranteed to lead to an awakening, okay? I think this guy, like, hung out in the lower astral realm and got fed some honeypot bullshit from some glowy, evil spirit. Astral nasty, okay? So, in conclusion, spiritual awakening is understanding the double whammy. The world will give you suffering, and it will try to convince you that it's your fault. Your awakening is that, okay, this suffering in my life is a given. Especially because I'm not causing other people suffering. Because I follow Jesus. Because I follow Buddha. Because I follow Krishna. Because I follow the perennial philosophy. Because I'm some sort of a right-hand path spiritualist, new ager, gasp occultist, whatever, what have you. Okay? So it's like, okay, world, I fully realize it. The world is giving me suffering. And I fully realize it. The world wants to gaslight me to make me think it's my fault. Now, why do they want to gaslight you to make you think it's your fault? Because it's covert. Because it's covering up the fact that they're causing suffering. It's like, so what if everybody all of a sudden understood, wait a second, this suffering isn't my fault? Is that a freaking, like, milker machine that, like, feeds off of everybody's suffering and we're just a bunch of fucking cattle that are meant to suffer? If there's not plausible deniability, if there's not somebody, like, a reasonable explanation, like, oh, well, you're suffering because you caused it. If you didn't cause it, then somebody else caused it. Well, who caused it? Is there somebody, like, in a high position of power, like, causing everybody suffering? And yeah, like, the people higher up the food chain causing more suffering, because these things exist in the world. You could explain the entire economy of the world with suffering. There are fat cats smoking cigars, wearing $50,000 suits in huge skyscraper buildings, looking at computers, being like, okay, there's the suffering quota, this suffering quota. There's good suffering over here, but we need more suffering over here. These are bigwigs, and they're getting closer and closer and closer to this metaphysical evil in the lower astral realms, in the lower fourth dimension. The fifth dimension is like pure love and understanding and oneness and realizing that why do we want to make everybody suffer? Like, we're all living the same human condition and we should all just be good to each other. And that's what Jesus taught. And that's reflected in, like, the spiritual gurus. And Jesus said you'll know them by their fruits. So that's the reality, guys. It's like the fifth dimension is all love, is all good. The fourth dimension contains all the spirituality that we can interface with. And I would say that, like, the very high level people here on Earth maybe get glimpses of, like, the fifth dimension while they're alive. But it's very difficult to obtain it. And I believe that you must interface with the fourth dimension. Prayer is the fourth dimension. I would just say when it starts to leave the it's like, oh, regular Christianity is everything you need. I mean, on some level, yeah, I'd say being a very good Catholic or Orthodox is probably all you need, because it's a system of works that says, hey, you need to do things to get better, and you do all of it. But I've come up with my own observations about certain things that we won't get into here now. It's just when you fully understand these kind of basics, I feel like ideally people would agree on these basics, that the fourth dimension contains all spiritual interface. The fifth dimension is ultimately like heaven, is like where the real ones go. And in order to get there, you have to interface with the fourth dimension. Arguably, following a religion properly. That's kind of what the perennial philosophy teaches. So, okay, guys, is there anything I missed? Is there anything that needs to be said other than that? Spiritual awakening, you're awakened, you're enlightened. What does it mean? You're going to suffer. I didn't have a great day today. Today felt very cold and dark, and I don't really think I had a meltdown on my stream. I just think I wasn't really all there. To be honest with you, I don't really remember that much of like what I said or what we discussed. I was like kind of out of it, man. It was very lame, cool guy, like bad day, which is fine. It's like chatty bad day, dude. But you're going to suffer. Like the idea that some people think enlightenment is there's no more suffering in your life. And you could kind of see that from like a Krishna perspective. Like just get rid of your desire and then you won't suffer anymore. See, I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong. I think suffering is a given. And I think the better of a position you put yourself in to remove all the suffering from your life is, I mean, ultimately, guys, according to this system, the best way to remove all the suffering from your life is to cause lots of suffering in others. That's Satanism. Consider that. That's Satanism. This world demands suffering. So if you really want to be a good person, you need to understand that you're going to suffer. Now, okay, so I'm a good person, so intense suffering all the time, forever? No. And this is like, I'll kind of just leave this as a cliffhanger. You are able to dodge the suffering. It's a Jedi mind trick, okay? It's a Jedi mind trick. And yeah, I mean, the world wants to put obstacles in your path. It wants to put bad people in your life. It wants to deprive you of good things. Like, we can go down the list of all the ways that the world, which seems to all kind of be interconnected, and the tentacles of this nasty force seem to, like, work everywhere. There's only so many ways, though. It gets to a point where it's like, okay, you're in your home, you're disconnected from the outside world, you're self-improving, you're drinking your tea, you're meditating, you're doing all these things, and it's like, the world can only do so much. And yes, the world can just straight up, ooga booga booga, reach into you and make you feel like shit. But not all the time. Not all the time. And you can overcome that too. This gets to the point where it's like some Jedi mind tricks shit, dude. I've been talking about, like, some media I really like. I really like the Dark Knight trilogy from Nolan. I really like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I wish I could say I really like all Star Wars. I really like Revenge of the Sith and The Empire Strikes Back. I like some Star Wars. I like, some Star Wars. I feel like it's not consistent as Lord of the Rings. And, the Nolan trilogy, unfortunately, it leaves a little bit to be desired. I've just seen that damn The Dark Knight with the Joker way too many times. That kind of ruined it for me. The first one is highly underrated, I think. And then the third one, I really wanted to, love it, but eh. But those are powerful movies. Those are, warriors. Those are people who are up in it. I just thought of that because I'm talking about Jedi mind tricks. But, yes, you can dodge the suffering. that the world gives you. But let me leave you with this, bro. When you dodge that suffering, when you're feeling good, la da 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 da, and you're not causing suffering others, and you're not suffering, watch yo mo fucking back, bro. Because the tentacles are not happy with you because you're enlightened. God bless you, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace out.